Welcome along everybody to this 500 sub special video celebrating the fact that we've hit 500 subs on the channel, and today we're going to count down my top 20 favourite games of all time. Spoiler alert, some of them are on the screen right about now, but without more hesitation, let's get on with the list. Okay, kicking off my top 20, we're going to start at number 20, which is Command and Conquer. Got the remaster collection here, but also just the OG Command and Conquer. This was my first ever real-time strategy, and it just absolutely blew my mind about what you could do with a game and how you sort of build everything, and just the general GDI versus the Brotherhood of Nod. Just the story and everything was just amazing for me. The actor cutscenes as well was pretty unique for me at that time. I was a little young pup back then, but what drew me in was the game started off so basic. So you got your power plants, your barracks, and as you went through the story, you unlocked more and more units, and it became more and more sort of strategies behind it. The difficulty spikes were pretty stupid in this game. Yes, that stupid stealth tank mission for the Brotherhood of Nod always comes into my head, but this game unlocked so many more games for me. And is it the best of these? No. Spoiler alert, there's some more of these sort of games coming, but it opened up a whole genre to me, and it always holds that special place. And when the remaster collection got released, yes, straight away I went and got it, and I don't regret playing this game at all. I just remember sitting there, and you would just go and do some of the skirmish modes and just try and nuke down people, and it was just such a great game. And just the final piece in this one, because I don't want to spend too much time off the start on these sort of lower ranked ones, but just the voices. It was just so good. I've sort of got the background stuff muted purely because of copyright at this point. But yeah, Command and Conquer, the OG, it holds a special place in my heart, and it's number 20 on my list. Okay, in at number 19, we have Demon Souls. Now, not technically the first in the Souls-like, you could go back and say Kingsfield is, but for me, this is the first Souls-like game that I played way back when on the PS3, I think it came out, 2008 it came out. Anyway, recently been remastered, absolutely top dollar game. And it is still a joy to behold. Yes, some of the mechanics haven't aged overly well, the grass mechanics and stuff. It's generally one of the simpler ones to play now. You obviously go into the Nexus, go into each different zones, and then you have to clear a boss to get through. And it was really brutal off the start, having to kill the phalanx before you could even level up. Yeah, it's just a really great game, and just was a foundation for what was to come. And it isn't the only one that we have on the channel from the on this list, just as a spoiler alert. But yeah, I still remember them first steps into Balateria. That first time you crossed the bridge and the red dragon was there to burn you down. It was really good. That opening tutorial bit where you just got obliterated. Or if you beat it, you could see the guy on the screen right now. Absolutely amazing game. Highly recommend you check it out. Demon Souls is at 19. Coming in at 18, we have Total Annihilation. And again, when we talked about Command and Conquer, I talked about it wasn't the only game in the list. And it was tough for me to put this one above Command and Conquer being the OG. But for me, this took the game and just took it to a different level. Now, apologies for the footage you got in the background, it's not the best in the world, but it's what we've got to play with. So, again, real-time strategy, build bases and stuff. Now, what I quite liked about this is you completely using robots, and the sides started to be a little bit more unique, and just the mechanics of, you had underwater battles. You had a map that is literally purely water, and that played completely differently to the map here. You also had a better use of terrain. The fog of war was better. You were able to do a lot more, and just customization was a lot better. You could get completely and utterly broken as well. So, yeah, it was a great spin on the genre. A game I still play today, and if you have never checked out Total Annihilation, I really recommend that you do. But yeah, Total Annihilation is at number 18. Okay, number 17 on the list is going to be Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age. A really good game, and one that is really difficult for me to leave off of my top 10. bring over, I've done a recent playthrough of the Struggle for Freedom mod for this game. Absolutely loved it. Again, I tend to only do modded playthroughs of games that I like, so there's that. But again, really tough for me to leave this out of my top 10, as there's so much to like about this game. I love the story arc, the way it moves from Varn and goes into all of the others, and just makes them all as a nice team with a common goal. But what I don't like about this game, and what literally holds it back from that top 10 game for me of all time, is the chests. The RNG element to get them to spawn, the RNG element to then get what you want inside of that, like the 1% chance to get some of the stuff in the game, really does hold it back for me in this. I'm used to like going Final Fantasy 7, you go to the Icicle Cave and you can just go across and you can go to the secret room and pick up a ribbon. You know that chest is there. There is the ribbon. On this, you can walk down a corridor 20 times and not see a chest. And then suddenly there's a chest that appears, which puts an added element into the grind, and for me just holds the game back. But as you can see on the screen, we've got the gambit system, and this is one thing I really wish that they do more of in a Final Fantasy, is bring back this type of combat system. I think it flows really, really well. So Final Fantasy 12 is currently at 17. I really wish it was higher because it is one of my favourite Final Fantasies. But yeah, chests just hold it back a little bit. But let's move on to 16. In at number 16, we have Transport Tycoon Deluxe. Now, there's going to be a lot of you there that would never even heard of this game, and that's not surprising. This game was made by Microprose, and it came out in the late 90s, like 95 or something like that. I was trying to get some footage for you, but it just looks terrible, and the graphics just don't hold up. It's a 1995 game, at this point 30 years old. But what is Transport Tycoon Deluxe, if you don't know what it is? It's a variation on a city builder. So SimCity 2000 was my first ever city builder, and Transport Tycoon Deluxe takes that city building, shrinks it down slightly, focuses more on the sort of the elements, the what is it? It's the resources, so your coal, people, and all of that stuff, and you have to move it from one to another, and you literally pick up as a railroad tycoon. So you build a railway, you move the coal or the timber from the wood to the lumberyard. And when I say this is 1995, I was a little pup back then. It blew my mind about how this all works, and it was such a great game. It started off nice and simple. You had a contract to take the wood, say, to the lumber mill, and they would pay you some money to do that. And then over time, it would get subsidied, and so you get more money. And then you would advance your knowledge of trains, and you build a better train, and all of that stuff. And it was just, for me, one of the first games to do this. There is open TTD, which means you can play this if you are interested. Open TTD will allow you to play this game for free, and I highly recommend you do. It's a foundation of a lot of games that have gone forward. So unfortunately, I haven't got any recordings of this, and searching the internet and stuff, just trying to find some stuff for it, doesn't look overly great. So yeah, nothing for that. But Transport Tycoon Deluxe is such a unique game. I highly recommend you check it out. And it's number 16 in my list. Let's get to 15. Okay, in at number 15 is Lost Odyssey, a Final Fantasy killer. It was supposed to be back in the day. And yeah, it is such an, I would say, underrated game, but as time has gone on, it's become more of an infamous game. Its popularity has increased, and I really wish Microsoft would just release this for PC. Oh my god, I've tried to do a couple of emulations of it before and just trying to get a version of it on the channel, but yeah, it just unstable crashes and just doesn't look overly great. So yeah, just need to make sure that it's all good before we get it. But yeah, underrated game. It needs a remake, remaster sequel, as I've said. It's got a unique combat system, a really good story, ability leveling mechanics are on point, and it is just a really solid RPG. And yeah, it really needs that. Not too much I can say about this. I haven't got anything to show after that. I want to keep these ones relatively short. But Lost Odyssey is, if you haven't seen it, please go and check a playthrough of other content creators on the interwebs, because it is such a good game and just needs more attention to it and a bit more pressure to do it. So yeah, let's move on to number 14. Okay, in at number 14, we have Vampire Survivors, and it's such a good game. Oh my word. But when you first look at this game, it just doesn't look that impressive, does it? You come over here, it's like, what the hell is this game? But oh my god, I was blown away, like many on this list, um, by the gameplay of this. And this is a genre-defining game. This game, like the Souls games, has, for me, developed its own little niche genre that I've covered quite a bit on the channel. And I call it bullet heaven. I think a lot of people call it bullet heaven, or it's like reverse bullet hell. And it's such a simple game at its core. You don't do anything. You move around the map away from enemies. You level up, you get some skills, and then you become this overpowered god by the end of it. So good. Um, and a couple of things of this. So the price point when this came out was like £5 for me. It was just like, okay, I'm not expecting hours of entertainment here, but the depth of this game is just so good. The variety of the maps, the interactions that you end up having on the maps. You know, at the end of the 20 minutes, you get this thing that just comes and obliterates you, and then you can kill him eventually. The mechanics of upgrading into super weapons because you get different combinations of weapons and accessories. It just blew my mind, and it's a game that I'd be forever grateful for opening my eyes to this type of game. Again, doesn't look great, it looks a bit weird, but once you get playing it, it's just a game that is like no other. There's lots of imitators of this game. Most of them don't come anywhere near. And that is probably the best thing I can say about this game. It's a genre definer and still probably at the tip of the spear for it. This is Vampire Survivors. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, in at 13, we have SimCity 4. Again, probably not a game you'd expect for me to have on my top 20 list. Again, no footage for this one. I've scoured around trying to find some stuff and it just doesn't bode well for me on this. But SimCity 4, as I said before, was SimCity 2000 was my first one, then SimCity 3000, then SimCity 4 came out and it just blew the city builder genre into like oblivion. The game was absolutely massive for a game that was released in 2003, and you had this pocket, this city on one side of the map, and then you zoomed out the map and you could go to this massive plethora of this region you could build, go completely the other side and build a second city in there, and it was just mind-boggling. You could zoom right in to see people, cars, and traffic and moving around on sort of the map. It was just amazing. And it brought a bit of fresh air to this whole genre, and it gave so much replayability. You could literally play the same map differently, and it would just be so different, obviously. You had like severe weather events which would come in and obliterate the whole of the map. It was great. You had to balance your utilities, your population, your infrastructure. You had to separate industry away from people because they wouldn't develop over time. And with that, the game actually developed over time. So it went from this small hamlet and could eventually just bubble up into this like advanced metropolis. It was so good. It was way ahead of its time, and unfortunately, the companies involved with this game and the subsequent sequels just, yeah, pushed it into the ground, made it into a bloody mobile game. But SimCity 4, again, for me, was the tip of the spear for the SimCity franchise. Absolutely cracking game. If you've never tried it, I would highly recommend you try it. Even if city building is not your thing, it's not massively mine. But for this game, it was just amazing. In at number 12, we have The Last Remnant Remastered. which yeah, a game that came out a fair while ago, but was remastered again a little bit sooner. But a game that I played properly, probably when COVID hit. So when COVID hit and we went into a lockdown in the UK, I ended up being on my own for 6 months. So my partner was away with her parents. So I had a couple of evenings free, and I streamed this actually. I streamed this over on Twitch when I was streaming on Twitch, and the game just instantly grabbed me. So yeah, I played it like previously when it first released. It was like, okay, cool, this is good, and then was recommended to try it again, and just played it. And as soon as I did it and played it, wow, was I hooked in. And the reason why it hooked me in, as you can probably see, it's such a different battle mechanic for an RPG than anything I've ever played before. So instead of controlling just one unit, you control whole unions, and they come into teams. Well, the teams are unions, and then you attack as one. So if you've got like 5 people in, you set them to do a certain type of attack, and then all 5 go in. And you can do like some critical attacks, which you pop up on the screen. And then there's things like you could intercept, you could back attack, and depending on how the enemy AI came against each other, you could flank. You could, yeah, it was just deep of mechanics for the battle, and the battling is so satisfying for almost a click and forget type thing. So once you click attack, that's it, you're going. So yeah, absolutely breath of fresh air for me. I liked the way that the weapon mechanics and upgrading of that weapon mechanics works. You go and collect some items, and your colleagues will ask you for the ingredients. Give them ingredients. They upgrade their weapons depending on what you give them, or what you get yourself. You upgrade your weapon into different things. You could play as a melee. You could play as a mage. You could play a bit in between. It's really, really good. And then, as per normal RPG things, you could just walk around a corner, bam, there's a super boss that would absolutely kick your ass. Absolutely brilliant. It was just a game that I wasn't expecting to be so good when I played it. And it's a game that I've got on my tablet now. I'd have it on my phone if it was released, or I could get it on my phone. But unfortunately, I can't, just my tablet. I've got it on the PlayStation. I just wish you could get it on PC so people could go mod crazy on it. But it's a game that I'll forever play, and forever grateful I played. And yeah, they got me through some personal tough times, and yeah, it's literally will stay in my memory banks. And it's, it's not in my top 10, but you know it's close enough. At number 12. So yeah, that is The Last Remnant. The cracking game. If you've never played it, please do. It's on, I think, PC, Switch, or it's on Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, mobile, or tablets. That can do it. Fascinating game. Highly recommend it. And yeah, let's move on to number 11. Okay, in at number 11 is Elden Ring, a game that I tried my hardest to put into my top 10, but just couldn't get them to go ahead of some of the others. It's not my favorite Souls like. There is another one coming, but it is the capitulation of everything great of the genre in a game. The open world is amazing. The combat is amazing. The variety of builds is amazing. The bosses are amazing. It's not overly tedious apart from a couple of bits. It is just a generational game and is amazing. If you're not even into this type of sort of RPG, I'd still recommend you still go and try it. It has everything for everyone. It's brutal at the start. Once you learn the mechanics, it just hits. It hits hard, and it is just amazing. There's not much that I can say about this game that probably hasn't said before, but for me, going into that top 10, I'm looking for the games that have the biggest impact on me personally, that expands my horizons on gaming, that have a lot of personal attachments to them, and everything above this fills that void. This is just the pinnacle of being a great game. If I was doing this on purely just enjoyment of the game, replayability, and just tiered this as the best game, not my favorite, but the best game, this would be easily in the top 10. Some of my top 10 games, the gameplay still doesn't hold up as much as it used to, but they have other factors to it. Elden Ring is just a top tier game. Really struggled to put it, not to have it into my top 10, but I just feel the others above it have that bigger impact to me. But it's a game I'll be forever thankful for, and I will play many times. I think I've done 4 or 5 playthroughs at this point. DLC's coming out shortly, but yeah, Elden Ring number 11. Let's get into the games that kept it out of the top 10. Okay, in at number 10, we have The Darkest Dungeon. Now, you're probably thinking, Paul, how have you got The Darkest Dungeon ahead of Elden Ring? As I just explained on Elden Ring, we're now into the games that have an impact on me, or have expanded my horizons on genres of games. So, although this is an older game, I've started playing this in 2023, and it was just one of the most unique games I've ever played. It's brutal, but it gives you a lot of variety of gameplay. Each of the characters play completely different. I love the art style of that. You could have 2 characters of the same, so you have 2 man-at-arms, and you could put completely different skills on, and they'll play completely differently. They'll have different roles in the team at that point, and yeah, it just blew my mind how in-depth this game was. Currently, at the time of recording this top 20 video, I am doing a modded playthrough of this game, and it probably would be out on the channel by the time this hits. And again, as I've said previously, I don't do modded games for games I don't like. This is easily one of the games that has probably the biggest impact on me as a gamer for a very long time, probably apart from some of the other games that are coming up on this list. I've gone through this game probably 3 times at this point. About to finish my 4th with the modded playthrough that we're doing, and as I've said, it is just so different to everything else. Now, Darkest Dungeon 2 has recently came out, I say, shortly after I completed my one, and for me, Darkest Dungeon 1 is 100 times better than Darkest Dungeon 2, even though they're tweaking Darkest Dungeon 2 so that could switch. But at this moment in time, DD1 is just amazing. The DLCs are also great, so I'm just going through playing the Courtyard for the first time. Never done that, the Crimson Court, I should say, for the first time. Never done that before, and again, it just enhances the game. Color of Madness is just a unique trend on it. What I haven't played is the Butcher's Circus. Don't really intend to, but yeah, it's just a game that just gives you so much. You think it's so simple, but it's brutal. It keeps you on your toes, and yeah, it's just that unique game that at the time when I started playing it, when it was recommended to me to play, is exactly what I needed at that time, and a game that I feel I could keep coming back to and keep playing, and I'll never fully master it, and that is why I love this game. But yeah, Darkest Dungeon 1 is at number 10. Okay, in at number 9 we have Xcom, and I'm going to wrap Xcom up into one because I love Xcom 1 as much as I love Xcom 2, and they are probably a variation on the same thing. So as I was talking about DD1, DD2 just a minute ago, I'm not a massive fan, but I think there's a significant gap between DD1 and DD2. For XCOM 1 and XCOM 2, I think they are very similar in terms of enjoyment. Obviously, XCOM 2 takes all of the good stuff from XCOM 1 and makes it better, in my opinion. Better squads and all of that stuff. But the core gameplay of XCOM 1 is just amazing. And then when I first was sort of drafting up this list, and I've had this list going for a while, I had just XCOM 1 in here, and that was at 10. And then I played XCOM 2 straight after, and it just pumped it straight up. And again, just to reiterate, these games are outstanding, absolutely brilliant. In the same ilk as Darkest Dungeon 1 is, this game does not pull any punches, and I've got the assassin going on the screen right now from XCOM 2, because it is just brutally hard, and this isn't even on the hardest level. And again, this footage is for my initial blind playthrough, so you're seeing stuff going around. And I only started playing this game because of Marvel's Midnight Suns. So Firaxis made Marvel Midnight Suns. I played that, and then I went into the XCOM series just to go and see what it was all about, and I'm so glad I did. And again, similarly to Darkest Dungeon 1, XCOM 2, probably more than 1, but is a game that I will just keep going and going and going. I love the combat. I love the fact that you can, especially in XCOM 2 more, because you can still in XCOM 1, you can customize your soldiers. You get to play the game as you want. You can start in a certain location. You can build the sort of factory units that you want to build. All of that stuff is just amazing. So yeah, XCOM 2 is certainly, yeah, a top 10 game. I think on most people's lists it will be up like that. And say the variety of just gameplay of this just is amazing. And again, XCOM 1 was probably my number 10. XCOM 2 takes it just above DD1 to make it number 9. So yeah, XCOM series 1 and 2. Hopefully we'll get a 3 at some point. Is my number 9. Let's move on to 8, shall we? Okay, in at number 8 we have Monster Hunter World with Iceborne, because I like them probably just as much together as they are separate. Monster Hunter World, again, similar thing as we've had across this, was my first Monster Hunter game that I've ever played. Subsequently gone on to play Rise as well, but enjoyed Monster Hunter World more. So yeah, again, common theme, my first entry of a series comes into my list. And I think that's going to be quite normal for most people. Now, I've never known anything about Monster Hunter before this was announced, and there's a guy that I follow on YouTube, and I'm probably going to do a YouTube video on the people that I follow, because, you know, these are series to get to know me a little bit better. But there's a guy called Rurikan, and he was actually on a Capcom showcase talking about Monster Hunter as well recently. But he got me into this game, watching some of the footage and the press that he was given on the game leading up to World's release was like, okay, this looks interesting. And then the demo dropped. And then once that demo dropped, I've been hooked on Monster Hunter games ever since. Just if you're interested, I like a good old switch axe, charge blade, and a long sword. So yeah, that is me. Unfortunately, longsword main. Yes, I know. But yeah, obviously this game pretty unique. It released to the Western world, whereas all the other ones released in Japan first, and then I think got a port later on in the day or later on. This one was the simultaneous Western release, and has probably pushed Monster Hunter out into the mainstream. So yeah, but for me, the gameplay is amazing. The weapons all play differently. Again, a common theme in some of these things is just that variety of gameplay, and that gives replayability. So, you know, you can sink in quite easily 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 hours into this, playing all the different types of weapons and grinding all of that stuff out, and it all feels enjoyable. But for me, the first things that stood out from this game is that moment you see Zora Magdaros, who we're actually fighting. Again, if it goes a bit fuzzy, apologies, my internet's playing up today. But yeah, you see Zora Magdaros off that start, and you think, wow, oh my god, here we go. This big hulking mess that this ship gets taken out of, through to when you get Anjanath come and try and eat you off the start, and you start working your way through these small fry, all the way up to like Xeno'jiiva and beyond. And it was just amazing. You know, you had to literally prep to start. Well, I didn't realise I started to use the gun lance off the start. Rurikon had a really big part of me on this one. Jesus, I don't play it particularly well, but yeah, you have to go and do your prep work, and it rewards you for doing the prep, from going around and just exploring the map. It rewards you by getting all of this stuff. It's just a game that I have never played like before, and again, a common theme for this top 10 is it has that impact on me. It's a game I can always just go back, pick up, and within 2 or 3 hunts, I'm back into the swing of it with the weapon that I want. Or do you know what? I fancy playing a different weapon. You can go and quite easily get the stuff and then just enjoy that game. And then Iceborne just took it to the next level. Yes, there's some comments around the clutch claw impact in the game. Don't quite see that. It doesn't impact negatively to me, probably because I'm not a purist in that sense. And again, apologies for the fuzziness. Pulling this straight down from YouTube as I'm recording. But yeah, Monster Hunter World is a game I'll hold close to me, and that's why it is currently at number 8. So let's talk about number 7, shall we? Okay, in at number 7 we have the Mass Effect Trilogy, and because of my list I'm putting all of these 3 together, similar like I did with Xcom. I've put the Mass Effect Trilogy in as one. Now, if we were just talking purely of my favourite game of Mass Effect, that'd be Mass Effect 2. That's my favourite. But because they've released the legendary edition of this, I am going to put it all into one. So yeah, at number 7 is the Mass Effect Trilogy. And my Mass Effect journey started with Mass Effect 2, way back when that got released. I hadn't played 1, and yeah, when 2 was announced, a good friend of mine at work said, "We played Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2's coming out." I was like, "No, I haven't." And we just had this conversation around Mass Effect. And for me, what stuck when we're playing this is, 1, the story's really good. 2, the gunplay and combo skills are excellent. The characters, as you can see, I've got Mordin Solace on the screen at the moment. The characters are what make this game. And I say 2 is my first, but across the trilogy of them, you learn to love these characters. You feel for them, you feel for their plight, you feel for everything that is going on. The morality system that is on the screen at the moment, and you can go Renegade or Paragon. All of that stuff together was just really, really good. But the thing that stood out for me is, booted up and I've got the game, started playing it, and you're seeing all this stuff around the Reapers. We didn't obviously know the Reapers at the time, and suddenly just see the Normandy just get exploded. Like, what? What sort of start is this? And it just blew my mind that that is what they did. But the sheer scope of this game, the gameplay, and say with the characters, and ultimately the final sort of push down to the final missions. I will never forget that point when you go through the Mass Effect relay and you get through, and if you've done everything correctly, you're dodging all the debris, but if you don't, you're starting to lose characters. It's stuff that I hadn't experienced before in a game like this. And then you've got that gauntlet run. It was really, really good. And you're going down there, and naive pup I was back then when this first came out, was I didn't send my tech person to do the tech stuff. I think I sent Jack, and then she died. I'm like, what? It should never have been like this. Yeah, so Mass Effect 2 was on point. And then Mass Effect 3 came out, and for 99% of that game, it was really, really good. Wasn't a massive fan of the ending, but again, it just took the stuff that was great in Mass Effect 2, put it into 3, gave you some multiplayer as well, which was absolutely amazing. And then once I'd done that, I went back and played Mass Effect 1. But it didn't have the same impact to me at that point. I knew the story beats of it. I knew what happened to either Caden or Ashley at that point. So they didn't have the same impact to me. But I can still appreciate how much or how good that is. And at this point, I'm sat thinking, right, I've still got Mass Effect 3 time of recording this to record as part of the trilogy playthrough. I tend to do them one a year. And I did Mass Effect 2 last year. So I need to, at some point this year, to filler between content, record Mass Effect 3. And then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'd go and do Andromeda. And then I remember how bad Andromeda actually is. But I know they're working on Mass Effect 4. I'm hoping it's going to be really, really good. But we have at number 7, the Mass Effect trilogy. Let's get on to number 6, shall we? In at number 6, we have Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. Now, I've obviously spoken about the original Command & Conquer and the remastered edition before, but Red Alert 2, oof, my word, is my favourite Command & Conquer game to date. And it's so high up on this list because of sort of the remember berries that I have of this game and the love, and again, going back into the time of my life when I played this game. So, we all know Command & Conquer. It's the iconic real-time strategy game. And as I said, Red Alert 2 was the pinnacle for me. It takes all of the good bits from Red Alert and just enhances them up. There's a lot of balance to it, but you can still break the game if you know what you're doing. You could just send some rocket troopers in off the start against the campaign. If they haven't got SAMs or anything like that, it's absolutely broken. You got your old attack dogs. to scout and kill troopers, and you know, you have your spy network and all of that stuff. It's just so good. I've spent too much time on the skirmish mode of this game, and this is where for me the game gets elevated to the top 6 of my all-time favorite games of all time, as I've just said. This was one of my first experiences of online. So with Red Alert 2, you could play online multiplayer globally, and I've played a hell of a lot of that. I think way back when I was, you know, pretty decent at the game, I got used to some of the maps where you just build out right to the center and start capturing a load of units and all of that stuff. This game, oh man, it just holds them memories back to me. This was probably the first game that I started to min-max properly out of. I'm not a massive min-maxer fan. I tend to do enjoyment, but I was getting pretty competitive at this game, so I was learning all of their min-max strategies. On most of the maps, it could dominate most people pretty quickly. I was one of them annoying people that could get to a point where I could just base rush you right off the start. And many a LAN party with my friends where I've just done that and just obliterated them. It is absolutely good. The reason why it's just so hard on this list is just the memories of playing this game. Is at a time in my life where I just moved out from my parents, so I was an independent person at that time. And this was one of the first games when I had the PC to cope with it as well. And it just holds too many memories. At that point, as I said, I just moved out. I didn't have much money. I could only play a few games per year, and this will come up again shortly. So I have bought this game. Obviously, I've played all of the other Command and Conquers before that, and I just dumped thousands of hours into this. It's a game that is forever ingrained in me for the memories of the excellent time I've had during, I don't know, parts of my life where it wasn't overly great. Obviously, just moved out, had no money, and I could still enjoy myself. I could still keep with my friends at the time playing this game. Does it hold up today? Wow. Just before this video was compiled, they've just literally just dumped all of the Command and Conquers onto Steam. So expect a playthrough of this just to see if it still holds that memory to me right now. But yeah, Red Alert 2 for me, pinnacle of Command and Conquer, and yeah, it's at number 6 on my my list of all-time favourite games. Let's get to the top 5, shall we? Okay, in at number 5 we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Now this isn't the recent remake of the game. This is the OG 2009 game, and yeah, this is no Russian. This is the Rust. This is long shot, shotgunning, new tubing nukes from across the map. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Man, oh man, this game blew my mind. A game I don't think I've got the remastered campaign done. But let's switch over to yeah, just the trailer for this. I played close to 1 whole month equivalent of this in a year of online multiplayer. I spent a whole prestige trying to do all of the challenges of a riot shield, for goodness sake. This is a game where, similar to some of my experiences with Red Alert 2, is it came at a time where I didn't have a lot of money. I had my Xbox 360 and I had Modern Warfare 2, and this was how I kept up with my buddies because I had no money. So I used to play online with them all the time, and yeah, Modern Warfare 2 filled that void in my life at a time. It wasn't particularly great, but it was just amazing. I could just say overgrown noob tubes off the spawn killing, off that, getting your nukes, all of that stuff. I spent so much time in this, and for me, this is the best Modern Warfare game, just to just from a multiplayer point of view, especially where it's grounded. It was not balanced at all, but you could still counter it if people were noob tubing across. There was still stuff that you could do. Modern Warfare 2 for me was just, I say, the pinnacle of Call of Duty, and I just don't play Call of Duty anymore because it's just rinse, repeat, and the same. The campaign was good, actually. We say we've got the campaign trailer going on at the moment. But yeah, from a story point of view, I still think Ghosts is the best, and there's a hot take on that one. But just the time I spent online multiplayer on this game was, yeah, something I will always remember, always, will always take. It is, yeah, a game that has a lot of fond memories from a time that was pretty tough in my life, and I'm so glad I've got to play the original and not the cheese fest that was the remake, the obliteration of the game, I should say. But yeah, it was just so good. The maps were vertical. You had such a wide variety of guns that you could use. If you wanted to snipe, you could snipe. There was no spinning 360. Well, there wasn't as much spinning 360s you could do in the OG. Call of Duty 4, that is. It was just really, really balanced. You had your Harriers down, which I always remember it's like wanting a Harrier to spawn when I got my riot shield going, come on, just take the damage off my riot shield. You put your riot shield on the back, and you were good at that. You had to shoot people's feet if they had the riot shield. It was just so varied. And I love this game, and it pains me that they've desecrated the whole franchise recently. I just can't play them, to be perfectly honest. But for personal reasons, this game, number 5 on my list. Let's move on to number 4, shall we? Okay, in at number 4, and it's probably a surprise for quite a few of you, we have Marvel's Midnight Suns. And I just think this game is amazing. You're probably sat thinking, how is this game so much better than others on your list? And simple. As I've said before on some others, this is the first entry into card battler games that I have played. And I've played things like Slay the Spire afterwards and stuff that's on the channel as well. This is my first ever one. And this game, I enjoyed it so much, it got me into Xcom because, again, same developers and stuff were using it. So, yeah, there is that. But the main thing about this is it doesn't feel like a card battler. You'll see on the screen at the moment, there's my cards. But they're just tools to do stuff. If I think of like Slay the Spy, you'd have them cards there and it'd just be an interaction across the screen. This makes it very three-dimensional. And positioning is everything. And this game is great. Now I'm also a massive fan of Marvel, and I've read some of the comics, and I feel that the game actually captures the essence of those characters as well. So it gets plus points for that. The story is great in this. The gameplay is great. There are a couple of graphical issues, even still to this day, and it's again still a game that I play frequently. But the experience of this game is just enjoyable. Would I explore the grounds 100% again? No. Is the end game perfect in this? Absolutely not. But they aren't the strength of this game. The gameplay is. It is downright excellent. And it's actually free for PlayStation as well, I think, at the moment. I think it's in the PlayStation collection. It has been. The DLCs are great. I don't normally buy DLCs for games. I think, this is one that you should just, give me the game. But the DLCs are great, and they take the characters of those and literally enhance them. And they're someone like the Deadpool. They capture how Deadpool is, and they capture the Ryan Reynolds essence of Deadpool. And he captures the character really well, and it is in this game as well. Just that good. The bosses are memorable in this for the right reasons. The final boss section is a rewarding payoff. There's variety and depth to the card system, and makes each playthrough I've done quite unique. You're not always going to get quick on all of these powerful cards. You're not always going to get some health steal, for instance, on that. It is really, really good. The game didn't fare particularly well in sales and release, even though it's got glowing reviews. And hey, this is my 4th favourite game of all time. So, am I expecting to get a sequel? Probably not, but it's a shame. But this came out shortly after the Marvel Avengers game, and MCU burnout was starting, and I don't think it's been a fair representation of this game on your screen right now. This game is great. If you haven't ever tried it, I highly recommend you go and try it. Yeah, Marvel's Midnight Suns is just phenomenal. So please go and try it out. Yeah, it needs more love. So hopefully we can get a sequel. But yeah, that's my number 4. Into my top 3. Okay, this is where things got particularly difficult for me. I could interchange number 2 and number 3 around a lot. They're just very, very close to me. But I've got Dark Souls, the original, and let's say including the remaster version of it, at number 3. And because it just didn't have the same impact to me as the game that I've got currently sat at number 2. Um, Demon's Souls is already on my list. You obviously know that. I've talked about it being a genre maker. And I've got the trailer for Dark Souls going on at the moment. But yeah, Demon's Souls was the catalyst for Souls-like games. Dark Souls took it mainstream, and that's for me one of the fundamentals of this game. Is Demon's Souls is really niche. Dark Souls and the Souls-like genre came about because of Dark Souls. Demon's Souls is the grandfather of it per se. Dark Souls is the daddy of it. And it delivered. Oh boy, did it deliver. The combat was, well, is still amazing. The world is really interconnected. I recommend you literally go and see a map of someone's made a map of how all of the segments or the maps within Dark Souls interconnect, and it's just mind blowing. It is just one of the best things you'll see, and it is absolute genius. The Estus Flask and bonfire mechanics elevate the game over Demon Souls. The first encounter of Ornstein and Smo is iconic. The Taurus demon coming out of nowhere on the bridge, as well as the Red Dragon. It's absolutely amazing. The variety of play styles, the weapon choices, the new game cycles, all that stuff you come to be familiar with Darks or the Souls Born genre is here. This game is an absolute masterpiece, and I do mean masterpiece, and I include Blighttown in this as well. There's not too much to not like about this game. Probably the Bed of Chaos is probably the worst, but the DLC is amazing. Artorias as a fight is amazing. Dark Souls is just an amazing game, and it's number 3 on my list. And yeah, there's only so much you can say about a game that just brings me so much joy. A game I still play a lot, and I need to bring back onto the channel. So there maybe will be Dark Souls soon on the channel. But let's get over on to number 2. Okay, in at number 2 we have, I'm going to call it the Final Fantasy VII universe. Final Fantasy OG along with Rebirth and a remake. Just amazing, amazing, amazing game. So Final Fantasy VII for me, as I said, interchangeable between Dark Souls, and I said that Final Fantasy VII has more of an impact to me. And although I'm slightly cheating here, where I've said, OG and remakes are together, OG 7 was my first proper RPG. It's a game that I swapped my N64 for a PlayStation 1 for. My friend had Final Fantasy 7 in my close, and yeah, we started playing it, blew my mind, instantly went down and swapped out my N64, traded it in for PlayStation 1 with that game, and it made me as a gamer. I'm going to say that's the impact that this game has on me. Now, obviously, I've got Final Fantasy Rebirth footage going on in the background because recently we've had Remake and Rebirth come out, and they have taken the member berries I have from OG and have delivered on what I was expecting for that remake, remake trilogy, whatever they want to call it. So, yeah, it's that. So OG 7 is an absolute classic. As I said, it blew my mind as a young lad. The combat was great. The materia gave the variety. The story is memorable. Cloud's dream sequence can go and do one, but the super bosses are absolutely great. The emerald and red weapons or ruby weapons are iconic. You got the chocolate chocobo breeding, and the racing was fun. Sephiroth is an absolutely awesome villain and is just so memorable. People, a lot of people who aren't even gamers will know who Sephiroth is, and that scene, and the iconic scene that at time of recording this is just released on my channel. That part 101 of my Rebirth playthrough is literally just dropped. Um, but think about Sephi, you can actually understand his reasonings for doing this stuff as well. Um, with the subtle hints to like Vincent as well. If you delve into the story as well, it just pins all these characters together. It's absolutely amazing. The summons were draw dropping at the time in OG when you first saw them. And they're a game changer for the time. This whole game was a game changer. If you looked at Final Fantasy 6 to Final Fantasy 7, they're just polar games. They're so far apart. It's absolutely ridiculous. And 6 is probably renowned for being one of the better stories as well. But 7 was my first. And again, a common theme across all of this sort of top 20 list is there's a lot of my first experiences into there. 7 just holds that sort of stuff for me. As I said, I've paired in Remake and Rebirth because I've said they feel and they enhance the appeal of OG in a positive way. I can see a lot of people going back to playing the original after playing the trilogy that's coming. You know, we've had 2 of them, and with the third one coming in probably 2 or 3 years' time, I'm hoping they can speed that through because they've got the world map is there already. Um, the ATB combat is still in Rebirth Remake, and it's just enhanced with what they've got now. It is not my favourite Final Fantasy. You'll see what it is when we get to number 1. And even with OG and Rebirth Remake, it just can't topple my favourite. And it's not close. I'm not going to lie, it's not close. No, the number 1, when we come to it, you'll know exactly what it is probably right now anyway. But it's going to take something special for a game to beat this. And probably my top 3, to be perfectly honest. It's just a complete game. It's just amazing. You'll enjoy most parts of it. Say Clown's dream sequence, that 30 minutes is just frustrating. It just slows the game up in OG. The rest of the game is just an absolute masterpiece. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII as a whole collective is my number 2. And let's go and see if your guesses of number 1 are correct. So here we are, everybody, my number 1 favourite game of all time. And how many of you guessed it will be Final Fantasy X? Yeah, pretty obvious, to be perfectly honest. There are a few Final Fantasy titles. There are quite a few Final Fantasy titles on this list, but this for me is peak Final Fantasy. 8 and 9 never really hooked me up like 7 did, and 9 is probably a lot of people's favourites as well. But 10 came along after 7, so I played 7 and loved it, and it was number 1, my favourite game at the time, and say was for a very long period of time. Played 8 and didn't quite gel with Squall. I played 9 and yeah, didn't quite gel with Zidane, and I didn't like sort of the trance mechanics and a few of that sort of stuff. Even though some of the hot and cold stuff was really good. And then 10 came along, PS2 title, and I believe it came out 1 year after 9, and it was voice acted, and I'm like, okay, that's different, but it's voice acted so well. And then you had a great story with twists and turns, and even though the levels are like corridors, or they are corridors, they never felt like it. As you move down the level, there's so many interactions to break it up, and it's something that Final Fantasy 13 just didn't do well, which is called the corridor game. This game is even more of a corridor, but it doesn't feel like it, as I've said. It's just amazing. Then you have the sphere grid, especially on expert, gives you that flexibility on all of the characters. You have the monster arena full of super bosses, the inclusion of dark aeons and penance, which was in my base game, but for the Americans, yeah, was it? Yeah, PAL versions had it, the other version didn't. It just really tested your understanding of the game mechanics. It's got an absolutely amazing soundtrack. It merges the older standard melodies that you get from a normal Final Fantasy with a more rock element, and you know I quite like my rock music. Sin being the ultimate villain, but with Seymour poking his nose around. As again, memorable characters, memorable bosses. It gave you great boss battles. If you were underprepared in the game, it absolutely kicked your ass. But if you were prepared, you could steamroll absolutely everything if you knew what you were doing. And that is what is absolutely great about this game. Most of the mini games in the game are great, but lightning dodging. This game takes time to develop the characters, understand their reasonings, takes you on a journey with them. It's just so good. If I could play one game for the rest of my life, this would be it. Absolutely slam dunk be this game. I still can get so much out of this game that I'd play it. That'd be it. And then to make things better, you've got things like the P-Bird mod, which um, is just takes this game, and this guy is amazing. He understands this game so much and has developed this even incredible mod. But even other mods out there, just bring a new freshness to this. I found out about Dansko 8 to Burke, Dansko 8 through this game and watch a lot of his content because of this game. So just when I was younger, when this came out, I was watching him do his challenges when he first started appearing on YouTube and YouTube started to be a thing. I've been subscribed to that guy for probably 10, 12 years at this point, because of his Final Fantasy content. And that all is down to this game. So a lot of the content creators that I follow are down to this game. My only wish for this game was that it had a better ability to be modded, to make it easier for people to create their own P-Bird mods, to add their own dungeons, to change enemies like you have a new threat in Final Fantasy VII. It doesn't detract that this is literally my favourite game of all time. It will just take it some more. As I said, I'm going through a Darkest Dungeon 1 modded playthrough at the time of recording this, and there's new maps, new enemies, new classes, new characters, and I just wish we were able to have this, or people to bring in different stuff on this rather than some reshaders, and it's really difficult to do that, to give the complete break of gameplay. But this game is the daddy. It is, yeah, it's going to be very hard for any game to beat this. I'm going to say, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's just come out, is top tier, but it doesn't come close to this. This is, let's say, I would say it was the tip of the spear for Final Fantasy games, but Remake and Rebirth have started to bring that back and give me the trust in Square Enix that they can take this IP and drive it forward after the disappointments for me of 15 and 16. There, you had that lull of, 10 was great, 12 wasn't as good, but say still in my top 20 of all time. And then you went 13 is good, forgettable, but good. I would still go and play it. And then you get 15 where I'm like, oh, it's just an absolute mess. And then 16 to me just doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy game. So a good game, but just not a Final Fantasy. This game is just the creme de la creme, and you can do some self-imposed challenges. This one is a use what you get run. So every time I get a new item, new weapon, I have to go in and equip it and then bring that person into the party. It's just an enjoyable game. Such an enjoyable game. If you've never played 10, then oh my god, you need to go and play 10. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what your favourite games are, your top 10, top 20, your number one. Do you agree with some of the stuff I said? Do you not? All that feedback is really useful. But yeah, thank you for, say, the 500 subs that we have had. And yeah, this has been my top 20 games of all time. And I'll see you in the next one.